Hello, this is Joe Hyde with San Angelo Live, and this is the West Texas Legislative Summit being held on the campus of Angelo State University here in San Angelo, Texas, with the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce as the sponsor. I'm here with John Osborne, who is the chairman. I got to know you're director.
Chairman.
Mm-hmm. Chairman of the Ports to Plains Alliance. And if you don't know what the Ports to Plains Alliance is, it is a coalition of municipalities and entities along a long route that starts in Mexico somewhere and goes through Laredo to Eagle Pass, Del Rio, Sonora, San Angelo, onward to Lubbock, and into all the way up through Colorado to Denver.
That's right.
And then you have some other pieces of this that you go further up into Canada.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of splits. In fact, one that starts just north of San Angelo, it splits, and part of it goes through Big Spring.
Right.
Part of it goes through Midland, Odessa, meets back up in La Mesa.
So Midland, Odessa has now joined the coalition?
Oh, it's been there since the late 90s when it was designated a high priority corridor in the late 90s.
We've seen some of the designations of interstate highways, because what we're really trying to do is we're trying to create a second I-35 corridor through Texas, right, that kind of would service the western markets of the United States and also relieve some of the pressure in Laredo, right? And we also have an east-west interstate proposed.
That's right, yes.
So we have I-14, and I-14 is also supposed to split. Part of it follows US 190.
Yep.
The other one goes up through Midland, Odessa. So we're going to have in San Angelo's right there in the middle of it, Big T.
It's absolutely a great opportunity to go essentially the largest city in the United States without an interstate to now having a future interstate designation for two interstates to come through San Angelo. And intersect is just a wonderful opportunity for San Angelo.
Right. And so the north-south one is looking like it's going to be I-27.
That's right.
And the east-west one, we already have portions of I-14. It's I-14. You can see it when you drive through not Belton, but Killeen.
Yeah,
it's over there.
Kind of that Waco area.
Yeah, and you'll see I-14 signs. You go, what's this? You know. So building interstates. This Ports to Plains things. I mean, since I've been in the news business, it's been a thing.
That's right. Yeah, our organization's been around nearly 25 years. We were federally designated, our corridor was federally designated as a high priority corridor in the late 90s. And then we've seen a tremendous amount of movement for the cause these last probably 4-ish years or so. Congressman Arrington, Congressman Conaway, they were hugely instrumental in helping push forward in the House side of things, the future interstate designation. We now know that we're in the base bill of one of these transportation bills that's in Congress in the House.
When you say it's a base bill, what does that mean?
So there's a base bill before it has amendments and everything that's been written, and we are in that transportation base bill on the House side.
So when they say you're in the base bill, because when people think interstate, think, oh, pretty soon we'll see a whole bunch of earth movers here, and they'll be building the interstate all at once.
Yeah, ideally that'd be the case. Unfortunately, it never works that way. And what we're saying is in that base bill is that future interstate designation. So the only way that you can build interstate is to have a future interstate designation, and then to have the appropriate studies put in place, and to work with the locals on where the interstate will end up officially being once it's established.
And when you say officially being, like how it's going to traverse the...
That's right.
Traverse Lubbock, for example. Are you going to go on the right side of the loop or the left side of the loop?
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Or through town, or is it going to?
Or like Austin, they could build a double decker.
That's right. That's right. So there's a variety of ways that the interstate will impact the community, and the local leaders are really the ones that understand what is needed and what they want to avoid, and so they'll have a lot of input with TxDOT on.
There's benefits of this new interstate designation to people in urban Texas, I would think.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you explain, you're the best guy to do this, explain how much it would cost to add a lane to I-35 versus the cost of building a whole different, 4-lane to 6-lane interstate through West Texas?
Yeah, there's about a 35-mile stretch around Austin where they're currently adding some lanes on I-35, and because they're going through a very urban area, the cost of acquisition of the property, the cost of doing the studies and everything is just exponentially more expensive. And for that same amount of money, we could basically be building the interstate from Laredo through Del Rio, through Eagle Pass, through Sonora, all the way to San Angelo, do both to Big Spring and also Midland, Odessa. They meet it back up at La Mesa and get it to Lubbock, all for the same cost, much longer stretch of miles.
So basically 12 miles or so in Austin for one lane. You could get you 4 lanes from Laredo to
it's 33 miles, a little longer
30,
than
okay,
12,
30,
but yeah, 33 miles. And so, we know that helps alleviate a lot of traffic. There's the U.S.'s greatest trading partner is Mexico, and 90% of the trade with Mexico is done through Texas. So that's all going through the port of Laredo at the moment. And in reality, we need to develop Eagle Pass and Del Rio as well as expand the port in Laredo. We know that the bulk of the trading goods are agriculture goods and oil and gas. And so we know that that's primarily coming from this western part of the United States.
Right.
There's no need to go to Dallas and then go south.
Even in Eagle Pass, I mean, right across the border there is the largest brewery in the the
That's
Modelo,
another good reason to have a good good trade right there.
You know, it's something that's legal. A vice that's legal coming from Mexico. You know, Del Rio has probably, I would say, 24 maquiladoras, and I think Eagle Pass probably has 10 dozen. I mean, they're a lot much larger. And then, of course, Laredo is your central shipping point for everything. So all of this makes total sense to bring it up here. Have you received any resistance from any of these small towns along the way? Have you heard any people saying, well, we don't want that interstate through here because it's going to bring crime and drugs and all that?
I've not necessarily heard it for those particular reasons. Many of the small towns wonder how it will impact their town, what a bypass might mean, what if they came through the downtown, what it might mean.
So Matt Trammell brought this up before we went on camera. He says, what towns are going to become, if you watch Cars, the movie, which towns are going to become the Radiator Springs?
I don't have an idea. I don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately. I am an economic developer by trade, but that does not include a crystal ball. So I do know that if you look at the I-35 corridor and what that interstate has meant to that corridor, it obviously connects Laredo with the Dallas-Fort Worth area and beyond. And so you have a tremendous amount of truck traffic coming out of Mexico going right up through that I-35 corridor. And as a result of having trade, you now have goods that need to be distributed. So you have distribution centers that come. When you have distribution centers come, then you start to see manufacturing and retail pop up around that area. And so what happens is that while some of the smaller towns up and down that corridor of I-35 have not benefited quite as greatly as the Dallas-Fort Worth area has, or Austin or San Antonio, you now see that over the course of decades, they have really sprung up. There's been a tremendous amount of growth. So,
well, just like from basically from San Antonio to Dallas, it's almost you never leave urban areas.
That's right. You don't feel like you've ever left a town and gotten into a rural area anymore, whereas 20, 30 years ago, that was a little bit different.
You saw some cows.
That's right.
Yeah, you saw some cows. All right, you have another hat, too. You're economic development director there in the city of Lubbock?
Yes, I technically work for the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance.
Okay, so that's kind of like in San Angelo, we have the City of San Angelo Development Corporation.
Yes.
We have Guy Andrews who runs that.
Yeah, I'm virtually the Guy Andrews of Lubbock.
Right. So
I don't know if that helps me or not.
So
but
San Angelo is in competition with Lubbock for attracting industry.
That's right. Yes, but we're also in partnership, and I want to bring that up that. Again, looking at that Texas Triangle over on the eastern part of the state, one reason there's so much.
You're saying the triangle is Austin, or basically Austin, San Antonio, up to Dallas, Fort Worth area, and the Houston metro area.
That's right. In that interstate triangle there is so much synergy that takes place. As a result of the connectivity of those communities and the trade between them. And so, but there's a lot of mutual benefit. And so while they do compete from time to time between Dallas and San Antonio or Dallas and Houston or so forth, while San Angelo and Lubbock and Amarillo all compete for projects from time to time, there's also a greater need for all of our West Texas towns to continue to rise with the tide, so we do work together.
All right, so let's educate the San Angelo audience about Lubbock.
Yeah,
economic opportunity in Lubbock. Obviously, it's kind of like a larger version of San Angelo without water.
I would say that we have a tremendous amount of water.
Is it underwater?
But it's underground.
Yeah,
it's not. We don't necessarily have a flowing river that you all have that's
Right.
just
But
incredibly
you have a
beautiful.
university.
Yes.
You have
Agriculture.
lots of agriculture
That's right.
there.
We have a thriving healthcare industry as well. We actually have 6.4 million visitors a year, and I know that you all get a fair share of visitors as well. We also have
Not 6.4 million.
no,
Yeah.
but then we also have a good manufacturing workforce. In fact, even over the last decade, as manufacturing has declined throughout the United States, the number employed in manufacturing is held fairly constant. In Lubbock.
One of the things that you're always battling in economic development is the workforce. And, training people, these junior colleges like Howard Junior College are very important. So what do you see on the horizon as far as education of the workforce? Is it improving in Lubbock?
Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, we've just invested in bringing South Plains College, our community college, that's actually housed in the county just west of Lubbock. They are now opening up a new administration building and academic buildings is what I'm trying to say,
Right.
In downtown Lubbock. We also worked with them about 4 or 5 years ago to open up a new training facility for all of our trades, where we work with them to everything from healthcare and computer networking, all to welding and construction trades and all that. And so we've expanded their presence in Lubbock, and it's been mutually beneficial. It's been helpful to them, and it's also been incredibly helpful for Lubbock.
One of the things that Lubbock has San Angelo's we're getting bigger airplanes for our air transportation.
That's wonderful, yes.
But you have a very large airport, but you also have the former Reese Air Force Base there.
That's right. Yeah, and they're in the process of renovating buildings and getting them leased out. They've been it's always tough to do those bases and to repurpose them, but they've done a great job with the properties that they've had.
Yeah. So, but we're going to get interstate through both cities, and we're going to be connected better.
That's right.
And Midland, Odessa is going to be join the party.
Absolutely.
And Amarillo.
So will Big Spring
and Big Spring.
Yep. And then on down south to Sonora.
Yeah, all the way to Del Rio, Eagle Pass.
That's right.
It's going to be one big giant happy party. When do you think this interstate is going to be complete?
Well, again, the process is you need that federal designation
All right,
first.
we get the designation. How long is it going to
And
take?
then the next piece after that is to do the environmental impacts. One thing that I-69 down in far South Texas didn't do back 20 years ago when they got their future interstate designation was push hard to go ahead and get that study done. We recently did a study at the request of the legislature through TxDOT, where it was recommended that they go ahead and do the environmental impact study for the entire corridor at once. And we are advocating at the federal level for more funds to be sent to TxDOT so that they could go ahead and start that study now.
So they haven't finished. They finished part of the study, but they have not done the environmental impact study.
They've done the impact study, but they've not done an environmental impact study.
Gotcha.
Two separate studies.
Okay.
And so the next piece would be to get that environmental
And
impact.
do it for the entire proposed route.
That's
that
right.
way you can
That
put
way
the
it's
pieces together.
Yeah, and as construction projects are needed in San Angelo or in Lubbock or anywhere else,
I mean, we're basically building part of it right now on the northeast
That's
side.
right. That's right. But we want to make sure it's built to interstate standards, and having that future interstate designation, having the environmental impact done, will enable that to take place.
But none of this is going to happen like overnight, where you're going to see a bunch of earth movers move into town and build a giant highway.
No, the challenge with it is that when you build infrastructure, you build it for the next 30 years.
Right.
And so it takes time to get something like that built. And so they're constantly doing maintenance on it, but when you build it for the very first time, it just takes a lot of time.
Right.
And we're trying to speed that process up. We think we're being pretty effective with it, and the pieces that we've got lined up kind of moving forward are enabling us to get that done.
Excellent. You're going to stay around the Ports to Plains for a long time?
Yes, we love being members of it, and it's hugely impactful to all of
you as the director.
I'm not the director. I'm just the chairman of the board. That's my volunteer gig.
Oh, your volunteer gig.
That's
I
right.
got you.
Yeah. My paying gig is
so you might get voted off the board.
I could.
Or that you just say, well, it's time to retire. But you've done a great job.
Well, thank you very much.
It's gone to a different level.
I tell you, Mayor Gunter here in San Angelo has been phenomenal at advocating for all of this. I can't thank her enough for her support. Guy Andrews has as well. We've got great support throughout Texas and New Mexico and Colorado for what we're doing as an organization. And so I'm very blessed to have a great volunteer support network and great team with Duffy and Joe, who are our paid staff.
Right. Excellent. Well, Mr. Osborne, thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. This is Joe Hyde with San Angelo Live. I've been speaking with the chairman of the board of the Ports to Plain Commission and also the Chief Economic Development of Lubbock. I mean, what is the title again?
Technically, I'm the president and CEO of the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance.
There you go. He's like Mr. Job.